Welcome to Leading the Follower with your host, Rebecca Benston. Hello and welcome to Leading the Follower. It's me, Rebecca Benston. I am your host and it is Friday. Thank God. Period. Actually, it's December 1st today. I cannot believe we are already at that point in the year. And so much has happened in this last 12 months. We are actually getting ready to celebrate 10 years of being in business. My publishing company, Higher Ground Books and Media. We originally started out back in 2013, 2014. I think it was close to the end of 2013. I was working on building things up and trying to get everything in motion, and actually started in 2014. So I always am kind of iffy on the anniversary date, but we are coming up on our 10-year anniversary. And I'm thinking of making the entire year just a celebration of all of the things that we have been able to do and the things that God has given us the resources to do, and how I feel He wants me to move forward with everything into the next 10 years, hopefully. I've always said that it's not necessarily a money-making endeavor. It is meant to be a way for people to tell their stories, a way for testimony about how God has worked in someone's life to get out there, to get their stories out there. Um, and that's what I have really tried to keep as our mission for Higher Ground. So that's one thing I'm going to be focused on going forward in these podcasts. I'm going to talk a little bit about Higher Ground in each episode, so that maybe if you're listening, if I can get you to listen to this podcast, then maybe you'll go over and check out some of the really, really great books that we have by some of the most talented authors that I've ever met. So with that said, though, I did promise to come back and talk a little bit about what we were talking about on Monday, which had to do with the battles that we face when we are trying to rebuild our lives after a period of loss or damage, or however you want to call it. If we've gone through a traumatic event, or we've experienced a great tragedy, or just something that has knocked us off the path we were on and caused us to reevaluate our identity, or just our purpose in life. In studying the book of Nehemiah, I had read in chapter 4 that there are times in life where we are standing on the wall, where we're trying to rebuild the wall at the same time we're trying to defend the rebuilding of that wall. And it really seems like a lot, but we have to have faith that God never puts us in a battle that He did not equip us to fight. And I said the last time that if you find yourself in a battle and you feel like you are not equipped to be fighting it, it's probably because you have stepped into a battle that you weren't invited to. And a lot of times, I know if you're like me, and God help you if you are, I tend to want to fight battles on every front. I tend to be the type of person who will stand up at every injustice and speak out, whether that is a good tactic or not. It really hasn't served me as well as one might think. However, in a lot of cases where I've defended myself against various things, it has served to be a stepping stone to something else that I needed to get to. And I think that comes from having lived a life where I was so quiet and so afraid to stand up for myself for so long, that now when I have the opportunity to speak out and I have the opportunity to step up and say, no, that is not right and that is not the way it's supposed to be. Um, if I take the opportunity to speak out, whether that's my battle or not, it's always a good thing, even though it may knock me off track for a time. It might knock me off track for just a little bit, and then I have to work really hard to get back to where God wanted me to be. But I do think this is an area of my life where He wants me to do the work. And it isn't always easy to discern whether or not this is something He's sending me to fight, or if it's something that is a distraction that's meant to keep me from the actual battle that I'm supposed to be in. So sometimes I just have to plow forward. And if it feels like something I need to say, if it feels like something He's given me the words to speak, to address a situation, then I move forward and, I find out later if that was from Him or if it was from someone else. And the lesson is always valuable, even if the outcome might not be exactly what I want. Um, and really, even if it is the battle that God intends you to fight, you don't always get the outcome that you want. Um, so for me, the lesson has been, don't shrink back from a fight, because you are going to be called on, at many, many points in your life, to fight some battles for me. And that's kind of where I'm at. For a long time, I couldn't be bothered to fight a battle for someone. And I think that everything that has happened from the time I was a teenager to now has really, been a stepping stone, one on top of another, on top of another, on top of another. Um, from being a victim of rape when I was 22. I believe I was 22 when that happened. It's been a while. And of course, I'm not living in that all the time now. So um, learning to, take back my power from that episode. And then being able to step into a marriage and fighting battles within the marriage, for the marriage, about the marriage, whatever. Um, and then having my daughter, fighting battles for her. Just all of that has built one on top of another to help me to see, and sort out, does it make sense to, is this the hill I want to die on, type of a thing. so, so I'm sure there have been times when I probably could have kept my mouth shut and it wouldn't have been detrimental. It just would have been an opportunity that I missed to sharpen my skills, and, there are plenty of opportunities. But I feel like with every step that I've taken, to fight for the things that are important to me, I have built that wall a little bit stronger. I have fortified it a little bit more with faith and with trusting in God and what He wants me to be and what He wants me to do. So, um, that may not make any sense to you. Maybe that's not the way you do things. Maybe you're not the type of person who likes confrontation. Um, maybe you think that people who are argumentative or like to fight about things, or people who stand up for themselves, are a problem. Well, okay. Um, I will just say this. If it weren't for people who are not afraid to stand up and speak on behalf of themselves or others, there are a lot of injustices that would still be going on today. There are things that people have fought for, things that people have died for, um, that had they not been willing to stand on that hill and fight that battle, um, many more people would have suffered and would continue to suffer. And, I think we don't have enough people who are willing to fight. And I think our society has gotten to a point where we really penalize people for standing up for themselves, with branding people who complain about things as Karens or whatever. Um, I'll be that Karen if it means that my daughter gets treated better at school or wherever she's at. If somebody is mistreating her or trying to do her harm, then I don't care what you call me, but I will step in the middle of that and stand up for her at any point. Um, and I think there aren't enough people who are willing to do that for themselves or for the people they love. So that's just my opinion on that. But in looking at how Nehemiah told his people to be equipped to, continue building the wall, but be ready with your sword because there are going to be times when you have to be building and fighting and building and fighting. Um, I doubt that many of the people who were working on that wall really wanted to be fighting all the time. They were perfectly willing to, put the bricks in place and, secure things and do as much as they could do to build the wall and fix the gates back and all of that. Maybe they didn't want the confrontation. Maybe they didn't want to have to fight for the right to be able to do that. However, um, the alternative is if you're not willing to fight for your right to do these things, um, then you run the risk of losing the right to do anything. And and I think that's extremely important to realize. Of course, not everybody is a fighter. Not everybody is going to be someone who can pick up a sword and do battle and and fight in that way. There are going to be those who fight best by just diligently working on a task and pushing through and getting it done. And that's fine. We need everybody to to jump in and do their part. Um, there's a lot of damage that has been done in our society these days. Um, right now, we're living in a time where there's so much broken down that unless everyone does get together to try to work on this and fix it, unless we get to that place where, as it says in Nehemiah, um, unless we get to that place where the people have a mind to work and we all have a mind to work together and not be swayed by the divisive tactics that are being employed throughout politics and the media and everything else, we're not going to see anything be rebuilt to a point where we can actually have peace and happiness together as a society. Um, and it's really sad because initially when I started talking about this, I was talking about my own individual battle and the battles that I pick up as part of my life. But your battles, your individual struggles, the things that you pick up and fight for, they all tie into a larger battle and a larger need for victory, as we each fight our own little wars and try to secure our space and rebuild our walls and make it safe for our families and our loved ones to just exist. Um, the effort that we take and the things that we do to make that happen impact other families and other groups of people who are trying to do the same thing. So we have to keep in mind, that the battles we fight, we're not the only people fighting these battles. There are so many people out there who have suffered from abuse and trauma, who are dealing with poverty, they're dealing with illness and injury. They're dealing with loss. They're dealing with things that are not easy to deal with. And some people have a good support system, and some people have absolutely no one. Some people know God and can rely on Him and trust in Him, and it's the first thing they run to. And some people don't know Him because they've either never been exposed to who God is or what He can do, and um, or worse, they've been exposed to God, but in a way that's detrimental to building a relationship with Him, and they have the wrong impression about who God is and what He expects from them, and what His purpose is, and what purpose He has for them. So, so rebuilding our walls runs a bit deeper than simply surrounding ourselves with protection so that we can be left alone to live in this society. Um, it has a lot to do with understanding what it means to be strengthened and fortified by faith and by trusting God and by knowing, as I said before, that God never sends us into a battle that He doesn't equip us for. And the more we can help people see that, the more that we can help everyone understand who God is, and how He works in our lives, and the things that He does for us without us even knowing, and the things that He expects us to do as we grow. And growth is one of those things He expects us to do. Um, the better chance we have of living in a world that more closely mirrors the heaven that many of us are striving to get to. You know, this world obviously is nowhere near what we're hoping for. Um, and as we put our trust in God, we hope for a better existence later on. After He comes and judges us and takes us with Him, and whatever it is that you believe, how all that stuff happens. At a later point, I'd like to get into a discussion on that. But right now, the point is these battles that we fight. We're not alone, even though it feels very much like we are on our own most of the time when we're fighting. Um, God is always with us, but other people are fighting the exact same battles we are, just with different players, different weapons, maybe, um, different struggles. It's the same battle. It's that same need for the good in us to win out over the bad, um, and for the light to win out over the darkness. And it always will. Light always conquers darkness. So as you close your Friday today, or as you think about how you're going to spend your weekend, maybe consider the battles that others are facing, and understand that maybe your battles, sometimes they'll coincide, sometimes they will help another person's battle, sometimes they will hinder another person's battle. But think about what your intent is before you step onto that field and start to fight. Um, you know, what might that person be going through? Am I helping or hindering them? Will will it help or hinder me if I don't have this fight? Um, just think a little more deeply instead of jumping into action. Jumping into action is absolutely necessary. We do need to fight when we can. We need to step in and do what we can to make progress. But let's not do so blindly. Let's do so in a way that helps lift others up and bring them to victory as well, so that we can all eventually get through this and have a better place from which to start the next task of rebuilding. Um, I think we owe that to ourselves, and I think we owe it to God to be ready for that and to step into that. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend, and hopefully, I'll be back with you on Monday with something else to say. So, um, God bless. Thanks for stopping by. Be sure to check out our website and blog. The blog is at www.leading-the-follower.com. Thanks and God bless.